At this time, I'll call the August 19th, 2021 meeting to order for the Dickson County Commission. Would you please stand and join in the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have two items to add to the agenda. One is to consider a mill and overlay in a parking lot for the county. And then the second one is to determine voting delegates at our state meeting that we have in the fall. And with those two additions, I would move that we approve the amended agenda.
I'll second that.
We have the motion, we have the second. All in favor, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Commission comments. Before we do that, I do have the consent agenda. Do this in order here. The minutes of the August 12th meeting, also the payroll of $426,825.96. A wire payment, which includes credit cards of $22,389.55 and utilities of $9,301.30.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have the motion and the second for approval of the consent agenda. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Commission comments, Ron.
Did spend a little time in Navarre Saturday with the folks from the Lions Club and the Agri Trails Co-op. We sponsored an open house to show the work they had done on the community building, done a wonderful job, a community event, community project that worked out real well. And then spent some time yesterday at the Juvenile Detention Center in Junction City. And of course, they're faced with much of the problems everybody else is finding help primarily is a big deal. Being very careful with the virus going around, that's a big issue. Although they're sitting real well, and of course working over finances. So other than that, things are hanging in there really well.
Okay, Craig.
Yes, I also attended the our community center appreciation picnic. Gentleman that was with the Lions Club approached me about getting the building off the tax rolls, and I forwarded that letter to Brad. I think Brad showed me a letter what he sent to the gentleman, and it's, if I'm correct, it has to go through a government agency. I don't think it'd be a nonprofit, but I don't know if you've heard back from him yet or not. But, yeah, so we're doing that. Also on Saturday, I got a call Friday night, but I couldn't get a hold of the blade operator in Sherman Township. The Wilson Bridge, it was fracture critical when we closed only 5 or 6 years ago. They cut the cables and we're driving across it with, he said, 4-wheelers, and Martin got in touch with one of the gentlemen, went up and looked at it, and they were going to weld a bar across it on both ends to, keep them from cutting the cable or undoing the cables. Went Tuesday down to KAC offices in Topeka. Norm Bowers had been the road guy for 14, 15 years, something like that. Norm's quite a character, done an excellent job of telling his stories and stuff. It just amazed me the way he can remember names and stuff like that. It was excellent. I got a call this morning when I was coming in, and gentleman wanted to thank the county and the Road and Bridge Department for the work that they've done up in the northeast part of repaving the roads up there. And I told them they'd be getting stripes here in the next few weeks, if not before. That's all I have on Lynn.
Okay. I did have an EDC meeting that I attended last week. And of course, they're working on promoting and economic development, trying to address labor issues, workforce issues, housing issues. They're providing information and looking for ways to address some of those. But also, very importantly, they're having a fundraiser type or a commitment where people make pledges, and some pay in advance, and some pay on a quarterly basis or annual basis. But this current round, they have raised $1.3 million. They still had a number of people that they hope to hear from and probably maybe have by now, but in the next week or two. And of those, there's about $185,000 in pledges that were being considered. And then they had also received some information of some additional people that want to participate. So, the goal, it looks like they probably will hit the 1.5 million in pledges. And, we certainly have to be very, very aggressive for economic development. And it's not, it's for the whole county. And actually, there's kind of success stories out there throughout the entire county where they've been helpful. So it's been a good investment, I think, of time and money from the county, but also just to see the partnerships that are being formed. We also had noticed that Tracy Mann is going to give a listening tour. He is our congressman for the 1st District. I think by tradition, they have always, whoever the congressperson was, has tried to go out and have a listening tour and visit every county. And so anyway, this particular one is Friday, August 20th, 2021 at the Eisenhower Park Band Shell. I'm going to be out of town, but anyway, I imagine he'll have a pretty good turnout. It says it's 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. So most likely he's going to be visiting some other places, other counties, surrounding counties, as soon as he finishes here. That's all I have. I don't believe we have any petitions or proclamations, so we're at the point where we would have public comments. And there are a few people that have joined us online. I don't know, doesn't appear like anyone wants to speak or have a question, but we appreciate you watching. And then, of course, you can look at this afterwards, and the newspaper also usually reviews the tape of it, and we'll have some sort of article. I know earlier we just kind of had discussions that, the video station also locally usually invites someone in, and sometimes Brad coordinates that. And this time it was with the health department, but to give information. And so we try to get information out that way also. We're going to go ahead and move on then to our reports of county officers. Brad.
Okay, well, I'm glad to report that the jail is now functional. As of last night, all the inmates were moved from the old jail into the new jail. And we're working on getting everything out of the old jail that we need to get out. The demolition crew will be in Monday morning first thing. If you drive by, you'll see a chute that's been built out the south side that they'll dump pieces of metal out to go into trailers. And so we're progressing along. We had a few small issues this morning that have come up through the night with the drain here, garbage disposal there that they've reported to me. Nothing that is alarming or surprising. And I told Captain Anderson this morning when we were talking about it, that's all we got. We did pretty darn good. So they're all issues. They should have them resolved today. So given the magnitude of the project and all the moving parts and all the intrinsic details that go into getting that done, a few little things here and there like that is just totally expected. So, but it's functional now. We've got them in there. And we can really get moving on the demolition of the old jail and keep moving on the courthouse. So we did have yesterday, John started off the school year with the weekly meetings with the school nurses and school administrators to keep the communication lines open with the COVID situation going on. There were a few questions, but I think all in all, the school staff has been very well educated over the last year. They know what's taking place, and our guidance to them from the health department, from their health officer, John, has been changed a little bit this year because of the vaccines and people and having the ability to do field test kits in the schools. And I think that was all received very well. And I think everybody's, hopefully everybody will do a good job of monitoring that. And our fingers are crossed, hoping we can keep kids in school and keep the school year going. So we talked a little bit in the work session about the oil distributor, the county's oil distributor that we have, which is a device, a truck that puts oil down on the road for tack oil for overlay, or the oil that we put down for the chip sealing, which is 20 plus years old, was used when we bought it, is due to be retired and replaced. And Martin's in the process of getting some purchase options on that, one of those. So it was in our capital plan for next year to replace, but there may be some incentives to where we can get a lease purchase machine that come off this summer's work that we could purchase at quite a reduced rate. So if we can save $40,000 or $50,000, we're going to come back to you and try to pick that up early. So, and then we just got my email, or getting my email that we're going to have a cleanup, countywide cleanup week. So it'll be a free week at the transfer station, which will be September 27th through October 1st. And staff out there is going to be putting together a flyer. They've coordinated that with Solomon and Abilene for their public works departments. And I'm sure they'll be getting with Chapman and the other communities as well, and let them know, the ones that participate in it a lot. But we did not do it last year, so this is the year that we'll be doing it. Along the same lines, I know that Derek had reported to me in the same message that the overhead door company is coming in. They're here today to install the replacement door on the big building out there. If you remember, we talked about that was damaged during the fire and needed to be replaced. We agreed to split that cost with Ham Quarries. They would help pay for half of it and the installation. And so we put it on order. It's been on order several months, and it just showed up, and they're out there working on getting it installed today. So hopefully we can get that back to where we can close that building up. Other than that, I think that's all I've got.
Okay, thank you. Doug, and maybe you want to give your report. I know we talked about it in the work session, but the 8th judicial piece, I think would be
Yesterday, the nominating commission met for the 8th Judicial District to send 3 names to the governor for each position. And there were 12 applicants, all of them did an excellent job. And the ones that we submitted for Judge Hornbaker's position, which was Junction City, is Krista Blaisdell, who's the Geary County attorney, Keith Collette, who's the district magistrate judge for Dickinson County. He resides in Chapman at this time. And then Laura Vaya, Morris County attorney, was recommended for one of those 3 for the position for Junction City. And for Dickinson County, for Marion County, we submitted the names of Keith Collette for Marion County. He was originally from there. He advised that he was willing to relocate to Marion or stay in Chapman and take on the duties at Junction City, or stay as the magistrate assigned primarily to Dickinson County. And then the second person nominated for the Marion position is Doug Jones, who's a magistrate out of the 5th Judicial District, and Sue Robson, who is an attorney in private practice in Marion. So those were the ones submitted. We have scheduled the tax sale for October 13th. And we're anticipating that will go. There are 24 parcels that are being foreclosed upon. And there was 25 that just came off that brought themselves current. So there's 24 that would be available for the sale for this time. That's all I have.
okay. Thank you. Any questions from commission or staff? Brad? Okay, we do not have any resolutions. We do not have any unfinished business. I did mention that, actually on notice and communications, I did mention that we had received information on Congressman Mann being here in Abilene. We also had from the Kansas Policy Organization just letting us know that public hearings are required before government entities can raise property taxes. And of course, we have always had public hearings, but that is a kind of an activist group, and we hear from them time to time. And we also had a letter from KDHE, or no, this is actually on the Dixon County Historical Society, and it's regarding the Union Electric Warehouse on Abilene, 205 South Cedar here in Abilene. And they're having a review to consider that as far as a historic site. And so just notification on that. Did anyone else receive any information otherwise?
I know you gave that to Tim. You might mention the email we got about.
Okay, we did have an email from an individual, and it's out on Skipper Road, and there's a trailer park out there also. And they were concerned that all of a sudden an additional trailer had been placed. It was close to their property line. They felt it was too close, that there wasn't any screening or anything like that. And that part isn't required, but we had Tim Hamilton here earlier, and he went ahead and we gave him the letter, but he was giving us an update too, as far as some of the things that are happening in planning and zoning. And so anyway, he will review that. They thought maybe if their property is being devalued, that their taxes should reflect that. There's quite a few issues involved because it is an existing trailer park, and it was just a letter to tell us that. It wasn't an official request with the appraiser's office, which procedurally there's other things, I guess, that can be considered. But we did receive that information and pass that information on. And of course, there is certainly different zoning restrictions if you're in the city limits of a municipality such as Chapman, or in this case, Abilene. And this is one where it's outside the city limits. So that was one reason it was presented to us. Okay, we do not have any resolutions or unfinished business. We did add two things to the agenda, and one was a mill and an overlay on a parking lot. And Brad, would you just kind of give us a summary of what that's going to involve?
Yes, we had, we have a small parking lot that we lease, technically lease from the railroad, but it is in need of repair. We've been putting it off. Martin got a hold of APAC Kansas and had them come in and do an assessment, and they've provided us a proposal to do that mill off the bad spots in that parking lot, and then do a complete 2-inch asphalt overlay on the whole thing to bring it back up to speed. They are working south of Abilene on the KDOT project, so we've learned in the past that when they're in the area, of course, that saves you a lot of mobilization costs and other expenses. But anyhow, he did get with them, and they provided us a proposal that totals $29,789 to do that work, which we feel like is a very good price, given what we're having them do. And we would recommend that we move forward with that.
Okay, any questions?
Yeah, I should have asked this, well, asked it now too. What do we pay for the lease on we have the parking lot and the building there that's on?
Yeah.
The building is not in real good shape, or is it?
No, the building's in pretty decent shape. We put a new roof on it a couple of years ago. $300 a year.
333, I think, for some reason.
Yeah, it's $300 and some a year on a 100-year lease. So.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask next question. I mean, I didn't want to spend that kind of money and then have,
It's something we don't own yet.
Well, I know, I mean, but that we didn't have a long-term lease on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, we do, and I hate to even discuss it because it's such a small amount.
Oh, right. Well, the biggest thing, it's not useful for the railroad or anything else, really.
True.
It's kind of a PR thing that they do, I guess.
So, and
Oh,
yeah, that's where we're at.
Okay. And we do have our employees parking there, and so it'll be easier to clean and maintain, and be a good area for them to park. And, as mentioned earlier in work study, Brad had mentioned if there's a jury trial or something like that, sometimes there's things we want to have plenty of parking for the public and such. So, okay, is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the payment of the parking lot.
Second.
We have the motion, the second, to approve the $29,789, I believe is what you said, Brad.
29.70, and I'm
Okay. And so, and that's for a mill and overlay on the parking lot. We have the motion, we have the second. Did APAC say when they, probably in the next month or something, or?
Sometime in the next 60 days, I thought they could get to it.
Okay,
Is what Martin reported to me.
okay. Any other discussion or question? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next item we have is that we do have for KMAC and K-Work, we have delegates that need to be appointed. And that will be at our meetings in October in Overland Park. And so we need 2 voting delegates. I think as now all 3 of us are going to attend. So,
We need a delegate and an alternate.
so we need a delegate and alternate. We want to volunteer to be delegate
Yeah, I'll do it.
and alternate.
I'll make you clear.
Okay, you'll do alternate on both. Okay, so we have Craig and Ron. Craig is the delegate, Ron is the alternate. So I would move that we go ahead and have those 2 names submitted.
Second.
We have the second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. We do not have any other business unless someone had something they wanted to bring up.
No, we discussed it in prior meeting. With American Recovery Act money. And I should have mentioned it in the work session, so we'd have time to discuss it. But I don't want the public to think we're not being open with it. So we need to have the plan or whatever we're going to do, long-term available, in the next 60 days at least. So we're trying to shuffle something underneath the table to get it done.
Well, Janelle's got some better information on that, and she's kept track of that tally on what we're committed on that.
Right.
And so maybe next week in the work session, we can,
And there are guidelines to follow that pretty well outline that. And of course, I'll just mention now because in the work study session, the administrative piece of it and the time it takes to do that. And I had mentioned, well, maybe our administrator, should receive some of that money. And, there were kind of some frowns and looks like, and I guess you bring things like that up. That's part of democracy in a discussion. And Brad respectfully declined and said he was not interested in that and didn't think it was the appropriate, as in the study session.
No, that was an executive session. We discussed that.
Well, I mentioned something right before then too in the work study session. Yes. So anyway,
it's not enough of a workload on me. If anything, it's on Janelle. It's not me.
so yeah, and that was part of the executive session, so I maybe shouldn't have brought that up. But regardless, and a point well taken. I mean, we're very open about this, and we're going to follow the guidelines, and so I think there always is public scrutiny, so we need to be sure and follow that.
Yeah, we'd like to go through it in detail. And
Yes.
And the other thing we were kind of waiting on is some clarification on what the federal government was going to allow us for revenue loss, because it's hard to put a gauge on that. Our sales tax has stayed steady, and we know we've had revenue loss, but how do you do that? And she's got some of that information, so we're prepared to brief you on that.
Something else I did see in the paper, I didn't go through them all, the unpaid real property. And I don't know what it was in the past, but I know Leah usually figure about 98% or 2% forfeiture, or I guess that'd be
Delinquency.
yeah.
Right. It had been 1 to 1.5% in the last few years, and it's increased slightly. So I think.
That's still pretty, I mean,
Yeah.
not good, but it's still good compared to, I think at one point we had like 4 or 5%, 10, 12 years ago.
Well, and she had mentioned one time when she was in here, and it's not that it gets forgiven or it's not that you don't have any penalties assessed, but if someone has to work out a payment plan because something unforeseen has come up and they want to, pay on that, it still has to be paid in full, but she works with them. So, if it's someone where it's just the timeliness isn't quite there for whatever reason, they need to give her a call and be communicative to her.
Yep.
Okay, I don't believe we have anything else. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
We have the motion and a second to adjourn. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned.